Today, we're diving into the fever swamp of vaccine skepticism, where Big Pharma is the villain with the mustache, the government, the henchman, and RFK, the hero, screaming into the void like a Kennedy who somehow convinced himself to trade Camelot and Martha's Vineyard for a megaphone. It was a fairly expensive megaphone, I would say.
You can characterize it any way you want. I quoted them today. What I said was accurate. What you said were lies. You described people moving the Titanic.
Senator, are you saying that the mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I am simply trying to say that the people that you have put on that panel, after firing the entire...
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr. Kennedy.
evading that question.
I'm asking the questions, Mr. Kennedy. I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of America who deserve so much better than your leadership. That's what this conversation is about, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, they deserve the truth, and that's what we're going to give them for the first time in the history of that agency.
Guys, as we get started here, please make sure to thumb up the video. It costs you absolutely nothing. Do it for the algorithm. And if you have a thought, please comment and subscribe if you're new. So RFK Jr., the black sheep of America's royal family, is getting into it with senators who have the charisma of a soggy paper towel. They're calling him a liar.
What you said were lies.
A tinfoil hat wearing loon because he dared to question the sacred cow of vaccinations. And Bobby, with that gravelly voice, like he's been chain smoking unfiltered camel since the 1960s, he fires back. Myocarditis, ever heard of it? You pharma shills?
Are you saying that the mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers?
And the room gasps like he just mooned the Pope. Myocarditis from the COVID jab. The senators, they're clutching their pearls.
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr.
evading
Kennedy.
that question.
Because admitting it would be like admitting the moon landing was filmed in a Walmart parking lot. It is not going to happen. The Senate chambers have become the church of Big Pharma, where vaccines are the holy sacrament, and questioning them is like pissing on the altar. For years, they've told us that vaccines are perfect, that they were handcrafted by angels in a sterile lab. Dare to question the side effects? You're a heretic. You mention aluminum adjuvants. They'll burn you at the stake faster than you can say informed consent. And then you've got people like Dr. Mercola. Yeah, that crunchy granola doc who's basically a kale smoothie with a stethoscope got debanked, deplatformed, sued, and dragged through the mud for daring to whisper, hey, maybe, just maybe, the shots aren't all sunshine and rainbows. Big Pharma has got their tentacles everywhere, and they're not just selling pills, they're buying silence. You know those super boring, long advertisements on all the cable news channels? Ask your doctor about Zoloft. Is Prozac right for you? It's not about selling drugs. It's about keeping Lester Holt's paycheck fat so he doesn't start asking why Pfizer's got a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. Big Pharma, they are the sugar daddy of NBC, CBS, all the alphabet soup networks. You think that they're going to bite the hand that funds their $10 million anchor salaries? Hell no, they aren't. And I don't blame them because I'd think twice about doing it as well. They'll keep parroting the narrative. Vaccines are safe, they're effective. Now shut up and roll up your sleeve because I've got a second yacht to buy. Meanwhile, RFK Jr. is out here like a conspiracy theorist at a Thanksgiving dinner, waving peer-reviewed studies and shouted, "Look at the data." Data. The nerve of this guy, thinking science means questioning things instead of bowing at the altar of Moderna. Now, don't get me wrong. Honest to God, I think that vaccines on an intellectual level make a lot of sense. It's kind of like lifting weights. You tear the muscle and it grows back stronger and a little bit bigger. So what you're doing, you're exposing your immune system to a tiny bit of dead virus that isn't going to kill you or take over your system. And your body makes a blueprint of it, and now it's ready to fight next time that virus, that pathogen comes into your system. Frankly, it's brilliant. And the body, by the way, does this naturally when it in fact does fight off such diseases like chickenpox, mumps, rubella. I mean, people that have had them don't usually get them again, right? There's a reason for it. But then, unfortunately, you have these vaccine schedules that make zero sense. I'm talking about, for example, hepatitis B for a newborn. And unfortunately, my first two children got it in the hospital because I said, well, it's got to be there for a reason. And then it dawns on you, what, is my baby going to be shooting up heroin in the NICU or running a brothel out of the crib? Why in the world would we pump a day-old human being with a vaccine for a disease that they won't even think about until they're old enough to regret a spring break tattoo? Why? Because honestly, I don't think it's about health. It's about locking in that sweet, sweet pharma cash flow as far as the eye can see that the market can discount for higher multiples of the stock price. You know what you say to that? Ka-ching. If you're a pharma investor, another kid on the vaccine conveyor belt. Hurrah! And let's talk, by the way, about the immunity deal that Ronald Reagan, the Gipper himself, gave Big Pharma. He gave them a get-out-of-jail-free card in the 1980s. Vaccine makers can't be sued, no matter what. Your kid gets a rare side effect? Tough luck, Karen. Here's a pamphlet and a lollipop for your little boy. But question that setup, and suddenly you're the bad guy. RFK, he's out here saying, maybe we should look at the corruption, the revolving door between Big Pharma and the government. There's no way that they could corrupt that system, could they? The way that senators like Michael Bennet scream at skeptics like he's auditioning for a frickin' Pfizer commercial.
Who deserve so much better than your leadership. That's what this conversation is about.
Forecasting you, Michael. These guys, they're not working for you, for the public, for America. They're working for the guys who make Viagra and charge $600 for an EpiPen. The fact is that COVID ripped the proverbial mask off of this whole circus. The lies, the flip-flopping, masks don't work. No, wait, here's two of them. Wear them both. The vaccine stops transmission. Psych! It just makes you feel better about coughing on your grandma. It's psychological. That was pretty much it. It's enough to make you want to question every sacred cow that they've been force-feeding the public. And RFK Jr., love him or hate him, and I personally love him, is out here with a butcher knife, ready to carve up those cows and serve them rare, medium rare in my case, thank you very much. He's not saying vaccines are the devil, by the way. He's saying, let's stop worshiping them like they're the second coming of penicillin. Look, let's take a gander at the data first, the risks, the money, and examine the power that gives certain people invested in keeping this narrative alive and never allowing this sacred cow to be questioned. But no, that is too much for these senators, too much for the talking heads on CNN, too much for the pharma executives counting on their billions in revenue while we're all arguing about who's the bigger conspiracy nut. So here's to Bobby, the loudmouth Kennedy who is shaking the table and spilling the Kool-Aid that those in charge are forcing us to drink. And hopefully we can see the actual ingredients that go into it before we imbibe it. Right, Jim Jones? So my suggestion, I implore you to keep yelling, to keep questioning, because honest to God, the only thing more dangerous than a bad vaccine is a system that won't allow you to talk about it or question it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go hit the weights and inoculate myself against the BS with a nice cold dose of skepticism because it's warranted. Peace out, amigos.